forward to your talk.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
I'm sharing my screen here. Make sure everybody see that full screen.
Looking good, Eric.
Excellent. Thank you. Hey, just want to say, geez, it's great to be here with you guys today. Especially want to thank Joe, of course, without which none of us would be here today. But, Vin and Sam, appreciate you guys, not only rock stars in the industry, but legitimate, rock stars, really. And of course, Steve, Carly, and Claire, appreciate your presentations too. I certainly learned quite a bit. I'm telling you, I love doing these webinars, whether it's webinars, whether it's in person or online. There's just so much to learn. I realize, I don't know what I don't know. So every time I get an opportunity to do something like this, I'm really very grateful for it. So moving on, talk a little bit about today. Just want to talk a little bit about Neudorf. We've been around for 170 years now. We're founded in Germany by Wilhelm Neudorf, or Neudorf in German. And again, our experience in manufacturing development of natural plant protection products, the focus is and always has been on biopesticides from day one. It's amazing to think that. It's still family owned, which is great. The company carries no debt. So it's been a successful company over time. Not many companies can say those things. We have a global presence in the EU, UK, and South America and Central America. And here in North America, we have commercial agricultural operations in Victoria, Canada, and British Columbia. It's a beautiful place. My goodness. We do have an office in New York, not far from you guys, that handles HR and admin. We do a lot. About half of our business in North America is on the consumer side. Many of you can see our products in big box stores, independent farm centers, online, etc. And we do have a growing research and development facility in Victoria, BC, that actually we're going to be doing a lot more things in-house. So there's a lot of excitement internally about some opportunities down the road and meeting the demands that you guys bring to us. What is missing? And I hear you, an organic plant growth regulator, more organic options for the marketplace. So, we hear you loud and clear, and these are all things that we're going to be striving to do as a result of this new facility in Victoria. So last year we went out to Germany to celebrate this 170-year anniversary, and there's the head shed, believe it or not, in all its glory. This is in Emmertal, Germany, which is in a rural part of Germany. There's really not much around there. Neudorf pretty much owns the town for all intents and purposes. And the biggest, the biggest city next to it is Hamelin. And there's a couple cool things about Hamelin. There's a picture of it on the left. So it's almost, if there's a picture in your mind of what, old school Europe looks like, that's it. And what's really unique about Hamelin is one of the very, very few cities that was spared in bombing of World War II, which is why it still has a lot of these ridiculously old buildings, as far as our standards go. And Hamelin is where the Pied Piper story comes from. And whether you want to call it story or, fiction or nonfiction, it is, something happened out there. And there's the plaque that was actually, there was really long story short, the translation of what was fed down orally over time from the standpoint of what really truly happened. So, you got to pay the piper. That's where it came from. It was from this town in Hamelin. Very, very interesting story, very unique place. And they take a lot of pride in that Pied Piper story. Anyway, I thought that was cool to share. And, Neudorf right here, as noted, we're by a German media was identified as the brand of the century, which says a lot. And we're very proud of that. And that we've proven that it's possible to successfully combine innovative products and adaptation to market conditions in the long term. When you're looking at 170 years, I'd call that long term. And that young man on the left is our new CEO. Yeah, I know. It makes me feel old too. But he's bringing a lot of new and innovative energy to the company. I don't know if you noticed in that picture, there's a lot of changes just in the building itself. He's allowed remote working. As I said, it's a small town, so allowing remote work really enables access to greater talent. So there's a lot of new wonderful things happening as a global company. So today there's from as far as we're going today, discussion is going to be, we're going to talk a little, some really generic terms. It's really important that some of these terms that we're going to see, that we see here: pesticide, biopesticide, minimum risk, or 25B, and OMRI, organic, OMRI listed, OMRI certified. What do all these terms mean? They mean something specific. But over time, everybody might have a term, a definition for, say, sustainable or organic or green or soft chemistry or anything along those lines. Well, a lot of these, some of them are subjective. Some of them are subjective. Don't get me wrong, like sustainability or sustainable, but some of them aren't. And we're going to talk a bit about the ones that in my experience, aren't. And this goes back to my regulatory background at EPA. We take compliance very, very seriously. And because really the cost of non-compliance is a lot greater than the cost of compliance. So this is something we take very seriously. So we're going to talk about those things, make sure we're all on the same page. And then we're going to talk about Fiesta Granular Weed and Feed, which we launched last year. It's an 801. And very excited about it. We listened to our customers and we said, Eric, we love the liquid. It's fantastic, but geez Louise, can you pull together a granular for us? Well, it took a long time, believe it or not, shocker, but we finally came through with this and we're very, very excited about it. And its feedback has been fantastic. I'm going to go through some photographs. I'm going to go through some data, because I want to give you guys something to hang your hat on when it comes to having a comfort level with what it does and what it doesn't do. Managing expectations, as we'll see, is really important in having a happy customer. And I know I'm preaching to the choir there. So we're going to talk a bit about that. So what is a pesticide? It's really pretty cut and dried for all intents and purposes. It's any substance or mixture of substances labeled for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest. This is, really, if it's making a claim, a labeled claim that it does any of these things, prevents, destroys, repelling any pest, and a pest can be a weed, it can be an insect, it can be a fungus, it can be a slug, a snail, anything along these lines, anything that's unwanted, for lack of better words, if it's labeled for that, and if it's making that claim, it's considered a pesticide and thus has to be regulated by EPA. And the label is the law. The label is the law. So really, when I really think about it, if you really break it down, we're not selling products, we're selling labels, especially when it comes to EPA registered products, because that label has to be followed. So that's what we're really selling, is everything that we are claiming on that particular label for a particular product. So kind of a subset of pesticides would be biopesticides, which we're talking a lot about today. And of course, what Green Earth and Ag and Turf really has its foundations in. These are certain types of pesticides derived from natural minerals, from natural materials, such as animals, plants, bacteria, or certain minerals, or iron, which is the active ingredient in Fiesta. And as of April 2021, this is a few years old, but there were 299 registered biopesticide active ingredients and 1,401 active biopesticide product registration. So these are products actually that have EPA registration numbers. So multiple products can have the same active ingredients, right? You can have two active ingredients in the same product, or you can have multiple products with the same active ingredients, right? Especially if they're generic, which a lot of these are. So that kind of gives you an idea with biopesticides. But there are requirements as far as EPA goes for a product to be identified as a biopesticide. So first of all, from a regulatory standpoint, there's really two paths for a registration action to take place. If Neudorf submits a registration action, we can submit it as a biopesticide or just as a regular biopesticide. It takes really one of two tracks. I believe that's still the case. I'm pretty sure. But they have to meet these three criteria. They have to be naturally occurring substances. They have to have a non-toxic mode of action to the target pest, like for Fiesta in this case, it's a weed, and have a history demonstrating minimal toxicity and exposure to humans and the environment. Now, this is all based on the active ingredient and the inert ingredients in the product. You know that EPA has access to the confidential statement of formula, so they know what's in it. So they utilize their databases and the information they have. And if it has a history of demonstrating minimal toxicity and exposure, then they can kind of start looking at it as a biopesticide. Okay. And there are benefits to it being a biopesticide. Really what happens is because of that different track that it takes, if I may, usually there's a shorter timeline to registration and there are less data requirements because of the fact that it meets these three criteria. So it's just I just want to give you a kind of a 20,000 foot view of kind of what the difference is between a biopesticide and a pesticide. And there are true differences, and it matters. So there's a lot of biopesticide out there, as noted. There's 299 active ingredients and 1,400 product registrations, right? So a lot of them, there's a lot of pushback, I guess, on biopesticides. And, if you go back several years ago, maybe even decades ago, there might be good reason for that, but that's just not the case anymore. And I'm going to explain that a little bit in the next few slides. But these are really, generally speaking, and I know this is not really terribly new to many of you, but they don't work. They're too expensive. There's clearly a lack of awareness out there, right? These take, it takes a little bit of extra work in getting the word out on biopesticides, and a function of that really is the information and education that's required for them to be used correctly, right? Sometimes these take a little bit of hand-holding, right? They're just not squirt and forget about it, right? There's some other variables that are really important to make sure we all understand, to ensure their efficacy and to make sure the customer's happy. So really, these are these and the lack of awareness and information and education really kind of go hand in hand. But there is, based on my experience, companies and businesses that take the extra time to understand and manage expectations and give this extra information to the homeowners, which they usually really devour, right? A lot of these homeowners just love having this extra information because you're the experts and they're looking to you for this information. They do really, really well, right? Not only are these companies growing their businesses, right, as a result of providing this extra path, this extra revenue path, but they're also, providing a need to the customer, and they're differentiating themselves from their competition in many cases. Okay. So that's just kind of some things that I've learned over the last few years and talking to a bunch of folks about this. So why should you use biopesticides? Well, they do work, and I wouldn't be here today if they didn't work. Joe and Green Earth Ag and Turf wouldn't be here if they didn't work. You guys, in some cases might not be there if they didn't work, because some of you do focus on these programs, on these softer chemistry programs, if you will. So as you know, manufacturers are increasingly developing products that work. I mean, I think we're a perfect example. 170 years in the business of doing biopesticides is a testament to that. And research from third parties, universities, independent researchers are commonplace. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. It's not going to be too data heavy, but it is important. It's important for me to be able to convey to you, for me to have a comfort level, not only anecdotally, but personally, me using the products and seeing the data, that I can comfortably sleep at night knowing that I'm promoting a product that actually does what it says it's going to do. That's obviously very important for me. And so a lot of this, the fact that we do have these data really, supports that for me moving forward. Cost is increasingly less of a factor. Now, I'm not saying, Fiesta is never going to compete with 2,4-D, and we don't expect it to. We don't expect it to compete with a three-way from a cost standpoint. We just don't. I mean, this is a different customer we're going after. I'm not going to avoid that conversation at all. It is what it is. But the costs have been coming down. And we're seeing that not only as a function of demand, but also awareness and information and education and all these things that you guys are doing on the ground, you folks are doing on the ground, that there's that the cost is moving. We're moving from really a, whether it's a transition program like Joe alluded to earlier in his talk, or a complete organic based approach, right, program, or even in some cases a conventional program where there now is, for example, a product like a Fiesta, where you can do a targeted application on weeds and limit some of the traditional chemistry. So there are options there. So cost is increasingly less of a factor. And awareness and demand is increasing. I know we all know this, and I'm going to show some data real quick that shows that. Legislative restrictions have been put in place at the village, town, and county levels. We've all seen some of that. Clearly at the school level, in some cases, in some of the states that you guys reside in, whether it's New York or Connecticut, Massachusetts, et cetera, whether it's K through 8 or even at the municipal level, for sure. Litigation has moved public opinion. This moved regardless of where you guys stand or where any of you stand on this. It is what it is. But litigation, if you're looking at, with the Roundup litigation, these civil class action lawsuits, it certainly raised awareness about what folks are doing, what residents and what folks are putting down. It just is. I've seen it. The pendulum swung a little bit one way and the other, but in the end, it has moved public opinion. And in the end, managing expectations is critical. Biopesticides work differently than conventional products, and that needs to be understood. There are certain variables, there that are clearly more important, whether it's temperature, timing. Is it a contact herbicide? Does it have systemic activity, et cetera? So there are certain things we need to know, and certain variables that need to be understood to ensure that the customer ends up being happy. So this is just to really, if you look at the compounded annual growth rate of the North American biopesticide market. Now, this is all biopesticides, obviously, because it's in the billions of dollars. But it just shows you that the market for this is, we are still ahead of the curve when it comes to biopesticide demand. If you look at that, you're looking at a double-digit compounded annual growth rate over the next 5 years now. But still, this is anticipated to increase and continue to increase. So if you look at it from that standpoint, it encourages me as a manufacturer of biopesticides that we still have demand that needs to be met. And if we look at the 2020, I stole this from another presentation. This is from Specialty Consultants. But if you look at 2022 lawn and landscape spending, okay, and where that plays out, you're looking at the herbicide market, whether it's selective, post-emergent, pre-emergent, or non-selective. Man, you're looking at 2/3 of the pie right there in herbicides. Then insecticides, you're looking at 22%, fungicides 8%, PGRs at 0.7%. So you're looking at where the demand still lies. It's herbicides, it's insecticides, and then fungicides. So not necessarily new information, probably for most of you from a again 20,000 foot view. But if you look at 33, 58, 69, 70% is in herbicides of that business. So this is where, when you combine that slide and this slide, and you look at the herbicides that Neudorf carries, and others, obviously, that's really where the most benefit, the most growth is at this point when you combine those two slides. And that's the message I just wanted to show you in that. Okay, so there's 25B pesticides, 25B minimum risk, 25B exempt. Okay, you hear a lot about these products. We've heard a little bit about them already today. Fantastic products. They have a role. In fact, especially in some of those areas in schools where the pesticide school laws, for example, Safe Child Playing Fields Act, I think I got that right, in New York, and in other states where they allow the use of 25B pesticides in K through 8 schools, but they don't allow EPA registered pesticides. Don't necessarily understand that part of it, but that's okay. That's another story. But anyway, what is it? And that's what I'm here to explain to you, is that under FIFRA, which is the statute that EPA governs pesticides under, they exempt certain products from federal registration. Okay. They don't have to go through federal registration. Okay. It's a big deal, right? Because of the costs associated with it, the time to market associated with it, the data requirements associated with it. So cost, data, time, these are all factors in the benefits of a 25B product over an EPA registered product. There are certainly benefits, in my opinion, for an EPA registered product over a 25B product. And those we could have that conversation another day. They both carry certain benefits, but they're different, in my opinion. Minimum risk pesticide requirements. So you do, they just don't say willy-nilly. Obviously, EPA doesn't say willy-nilly, okay, it's 25B. 25B has certain requirements that have to be met. The active ingredients in the product must be on EPA's approved list, which you can find online, no problem. The inert ingredients must be also be on one of several EPA approved lists. You can find them online, no problem. It's easy enough to do. There's a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them. The list of active ingredients is a bit smaller, but there are a bunch of them. The product label must list all of the product's ingredients, both active and inert, which is a little different, ironically, than an EPA registered product. There are also other specific label requirements. I won't get into them, but these three are certainly the most important, in my opinion. So in addition to that, in addition to these EPA requirements, so once you meet these requirements, okay, we can move on. But oops, wait a minute. Nope, there's some state-specific requirements, right? Nothing's easy. Nothing's really 100% easy, right? I have an easy button on my desk still here. I don't touch it much anymore. But anyway, so many states still require 40. Ironically, New York is not one of them, but many states, I believe the rest of the New England states, still require registration. And some of them have different requirements. Generally speaking, they're very similar, but some of them do have some outlying requirements. Connecticut, if I recall correctly, this has been a while, but they do have some quirky requirements. I don't know about that 100%, but that just sticks in my head for some reason. But because of these different label requirements, it can make registration of these 25B products pretty tricky from a compliance standpoint, right? Because you're really looking at the path of you're looking at the most restrictive label in all the states. So in an effort to comply with all the state registrations. Yeah, that's pretty much what it means. And we can talk a bit more about that later if you'd like. So what OMRI listed means, and I'm going to move along here a little bit, but OMRI listed here. So OMRI is the Organic Materials Review Institute. Okay, it's a third-party certifier. Okay, there's a couple things I want you to take home. OMRI certified and OMRI listed. Okay, those are the two things I want you to think about when we're going into this. There's a third-party certifier of agricultural inputs. Okay. There are others too, right? But OMRI is clearly the most well-known, I believe. And OMRI utilizes USDA's National Organic Program regulations to review and list products for organic use, organic inputs, okay? And this is completely independent of the EPA registration. For example, you can have a 25B that's OMRI listed, and you can have an EPA product that is OMRI listed or not, or you can have a 25B that's OMRI listed or not. Completely independent of EPA registration. It's important to know, in my opinion. So what is NOP? It's a federal regulatory program, USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, that develops and enforces consistent national standards for organically produced, this is important, agricultural products sold in the United States, okay? It does not include certification for inputs, okay? It does not include certification for inputs. Only for does not include certification for inputs for non-agricultural commodities, okay? This is what we're working in. We're mostly working in non-agricultural commodities. Outside of what Carly was talking about on the ag side, we're mostly talking about lawn care, generally speaking, probably 80-20. So this doesn't really not include, but we're utilizing this program. We're utilizing OMRI and NOP for non-agricultural inputs. Okay, it's just clear to know. So agricultural products that are outputs of organic farms, we've all seen this certified organic listing, right? These are outputs. Okay, this is like, organic flour or organic soybeans or organic tomatoes, right? These can be certified organic, but input products aren't eligible for organic certification. They're eligible for being organic listed or OMRI listed. So it's a distinction that's important because, like for example, we have OMRI listed products. Those are products that are inputs. Okay, those can be utilized in an organic certified output. Okay, that's kind of what it comes down to. And I think it's just important to understand that distinction. Okay, so now we're going to jump into, I got about a half hour. That's kind of what I was thinking on that. I want to talk a little bit about Fiesta granular weed and feed. Okay, this is it. There she is. Okay, that's the product. And what is it? So it is a granular weed and feed, 801. That's the chemical. That's the analysis. And it's really a 6-in-1 product. You get post-emergent broadleaf weed control, pre-emergent early post control of smooth crabgrass. You got fertilizer applications because you're getting 8 and 801. You get disease, moss, and algae control. Okay, and this is ideal for those customers that desire non-traditional chemistry. As I said, this is not a silver bullet. This is not a product for everybody, but this is a fantastic product. And in my opinion, the standard for herbicide use for those customers that desire non-traditional chemistry. Others have come and gone. Actually, we launched the liquid Fiesta, about 14 years ago, and it's been growing every year. It's the #1 product used in Canada. Probably, truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of product goes into Canada, primarily because of provincial restrictions. Don't get me wrong. Right? But it is a product that is used and we understand it really, really well. We know what it does. We know what it doesn't do. We know what variables are required. We know when it works and when it doesn't work. And so this is the resources I can bring to you guys. I can bring to you all that experience. So it's a 14% sodium ferric EDTA and iron chelate. Okay. 8% water soluble N. So it's derived from lysine. So lysine is an amino acid and essential building block of proteins. So lysine is a component of soy protein hydrolysate. Okay. So in the sodium ferric EDTA brings some N with it as well. And of course, the K is from potassium chloride. Has a small SGN 80 size guide number. So there's been an important balance in that 80, right? That is well thought out because it has to have the weight to fall out of a spreader, but it has to have the lightness to stick to the plant. Okay. That's kind of what it comes down to. So that's an important part. And that's the reason there. So it's an organic water soluble prill. Okay. It's an organic. Okay. Let me be clear. This is not an OMRI listed product. I just want to be clear, but it is a registered biopesticide. It is on a organic water soluble prill. The granule is manufactured with the active built in, so it's not coated, right? That's an important point because you get better efficacy with the entire prill. Okay, comes in 20 and 40 pound bags. And oh my gosh, look, there they are. So that's a 40-pound bag on the left, 20-pound bag on the right. I don't recommend spreading, I couldn't think of that word, spreading it on the snow. Although, I have seen this happen in the past. I have seen fertilizer applications done on snow before, but that's a whole nother story too. Kind of funny too. I know where we all want to get out there. Anyway, so, but those are the bags. They're good, solid bags, very, very, very thick plastic bags. They go really well. Anyway. So what do we expect? So we're going to get greening up of turf in 7 days or less, kills weeds, moss, and algae, works fast, and a 20-pound bag will treat up to 6,000 square feet. Okay, we're going to get into that a little bit more here. So we're going to get control of broadleaf weeds and smooth crabgrass. That should be clearer there, and smooth crabgrass. We want to begin application when soil temperatures reach approximately 55 degrees. Okay. Not atypical timing. So timing is important. We're going to look at that here shortly. So if the range of application is 3 to 8 pounds per thousand, depending on what you're trying to kill and weed pressure. The standard rate is 5 pounds a thousand. We're going to repeat treatment in 3 to 4 weeks for best results. This is a contact herbicide, just like the liquid. Many of you are familiar with the liquid. Okay. There's reasons that I believe that you could use the granular over the liquid. And again, this is why we got demand from you all. It's like, Eric, liquid's great. We want a granular. I get it. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So we're going to want to apply some of the good agricultural practices, I should say, for ensuring efficacy. You want to apply a few days after mowing when temperature is between 55 and 85, right? This is when weeds are actively growing for all intents and purposes. Ensure turf is wet from dew, or water turf lightly prior to application. Okay, this is do not water in after application. Very important. Prior to it, you're going to apply this to wet turf. End of story. So you want to use a broadcast, rotary drop, or handheld spreader. And there is a spreader table on the label. We are going to be adding to that spreader table here this year at some point. Working on that now. Okay, we're going to get in a little data here. Okay, so bear with me and work with me here. So we have now what this is going to show here, and I'll just kind of summarize it for you. We have a Fiesta granular 5 pounds, and then we have with a late application in June and July. We have Fiesta granular 8 pounds right here in the darker green, 8 pounds with application in June and July. And then we have Fiesta granular 8 pounds with the early application. So, and then we have glutenate, which is a liquid, I believe it's a liquid corn gluten. Okay. So you see the efficacy. This is pre-emerge smooth crabgrass. Okay. So here, take home messages. Okay. Works better than corn gluten. And the best efficacy here is early application at 8 pounds. Okay. So really that's a take home message really from this entire graph. This is Rutgers right in your all's backyard for all intent, kind of, sort of. But certainly, you know, top 3 probably schools for this type of data to be done. Probably a top 3 school for this. So this is an important point here. That a couple things too. We're seeing a rate response, which we want to see, which is good, and we're seeing that it works fast. So that early application was June 15th. So this particular graph right here is 13 days after the first application. And note it is 2 applications, right? Depending on whether it was early A and B or late C and D. You see the dates up here. So again, that's a take-home message. You do see decreasing efficacy over time, okay, which is contact herbicide. That's probably not atypical, and to be expected. But it works, and it works pretty darn well. And this is smooth crabgrass. So we're very excited about that. So then we jump over here and we go into white clover. Okay, so this is post-emergent white clover. We have 2 applications, so no pre here. So we have just 1 timing of application. I'm going to close this right here, this little window here. I can't see it. Okay, so we have 3, 5, and 8. This is good. So we're seeing a rate response here for the most part, right? Rate response, rate response, rate response. And this is post-emergent, so it's going to be later in the year, June 15th and July 7th, 2 applications. So what's cool here is you're seeing this bright green, this Kelly green bar is Scott's Weed and Feed. The brown bar, where you can see it, where it's showing up, is Weed Shield, which I believe is essential oil. I think. I don't know off the top of my head. I think so. But anyway, what we're seeing here is a rate response, and we're seeing that it works very fast compared to Scott's Weed and Feed, which is what we would anticipate. And then you see the Weed and Feed catch up over time, right? And we're seeing then, okay, you're seeing a little bit better Weed and Feed efficacy over the Fiesta granular, which is, again, but then you see, look, after the second application, July 7th, this is July 11th, 4 days later, you're seeing that it jumps right up again, which is fantastic. And over time, you're seeing comparable efficacy to Scott's Weed and Feed post-emergent for broadleaf weeds. So, I mean, that's great. This gives me a lot of confidence. Okay. Now, okay. Oh, so I told you I've used it. Don't make fun of my spreader. It's actually a community spreader, but I did use it. So I have photographic evidence of this. So, and I'm telling you, it did all these things for me. I especially like the green up. The green up was really, really nice. The lysine really the turf grass takes really well to lysine. So anyway, so photographic evidence that I used it. And yes, you can make fun of my spreader. That's fine. Okay, so Ohio State 2023 Dandelion. So a couple take-home messages here. You have, so this is triplet, right? So we are competing against here in this particular study. This is Dave Gardner, Ohio State. Oh yeah, right there. Good guy. There's going to be, never mind, I'm not going to go down that road, but there's going to be more coming out from Dave Gardner later this year in a publication. So look forward to that. So here we have 3, 5, and 8. Don't necessarily see the rate response and that happens, right? But we do see it here. We do see it later on after the second application, which is kind of interesting. And, you're seeing after 2 apps, you are seeing a comparable, decent efficacy compared to triplet. But again, this is just something I want to show you. Not always is everything going to be perfect, but I do want to be transparent with the data that we have. So this is good data. It does have some lessons. And comparing against triplet is important, I think. Okay. So this is in my, this is in October. This was last fall. This is what you can expect from, this is my experience. This is October 5th. I think it was around 73, 75 degrees during that time frame. It was actually quite dry period here in Maryland, Central Maryland. I'm in Annapolis. It was a dry period, and this popped up. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give this guy a shot. You can really get some good visual on it. So this is how quickly it works, man. I'm telling you. This is again just shows me and gives me confidence conveying all this information to you that it's possible you're going to see similar results if you do it if the label's followed correctly and X, Y, and Z boxes are checked. So that's a lot of those pictures. That's good stuff. I like that. So anyway, so this is Guelph Turfgrass Institute. Okay, so there's some really new data that came out of this. And actually, for some reason, we just got these data relatively recently, like last year. But here you have true pre-applications. If you look up here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different application dates. Pre is June 23rd, then A, B, C, and D. You see these. So I know there's a lot to be, you can really look at each of these individual graphs for a lengthy period of time, I believe, because there's a lot here. But what I really want to show you here is this pre-C is that there really is some true pre-emergent activity. Which I think is fantastic. It's the yellowish bar, the one in the middle there. And you have the Scott's Turf Builder Weed Prevent Corn Gluten Meal, 20 pounds per 1,000. Okay. This was done pre-emergent, right? And not showing good results there. Dimension is the blue bar, right? That's the standard. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Great product. I understand. God, I heard that's being canceled somewhere. Oh gosh. I believe it is, but I can't remember where. Anyway, I want to say it's New Jersey, but anyway, so dimension here, again, the standard is 100% control, but look at the control we're getting. So we have 5 pounds, 8 pounds, and 8 pounds dimension in the blue, and then in the green, the corn gluten meal. So the we're really showing comparable efficacy, relatively speaking, to dimension. You're seeing high 70s to mid 80s, 75 to 85% control with Fiesta granular on smooth crabgrass. I mean, I think that's fantastic. You don't necessarily need to see a rate response, which is fine. Like I said, it happens sometimes it doesn't. You'd have to dig into the data probably to see why. You could probably put your finger on it though by looking at the data. But in the end, I think that gives a lot of really positive reinforcement again. And see, we're seeing this throughout. What I love about this is we're hearing and seeing the similar messages and the output as a result of these data. whether it's Guelph in Southern Ontario, or it's Rutgers, or it's Ohio State, or it's University of Maryland. We're seeing similar results. And I know it's a little bit of a broken record, but it's important to convey that. Okay, so that was Guelph Turfgrass Research Institute 2021 smooth crabgrass. Really good efficacy against that product and comparable to Dimension, much better than corn gluten. Okay, so university, again, this is large crabgrass. Okay, so this is good because it's important to note what we're trying to control. Okay, it does not have as comparable efficacy to Dimension for large crabgrass. It does a lot better on smooth crabgrass than large. So it's important to differentiate between the two. Okay. Still seeing some efficacy, which is fine. See, what's in this case, you're still getting an additional, an additional claim, an additional benefit to the use of Fiesta granular. So you're not going to get the control of smooth crabgrass or of large crabgrass compared to smooth crabgrass, but you're still going to get some control, which is great. Now, it's important to note that you're still looking at pre. So the pre data has actually worked a lot better than the early post in this case, which is interesting. So again, we're still seeing some efficacy there, which is again something to hang our hat on, which is always good thing. Okay, so here's some take-home messages. Works a lot better than corn gluten. So its efficacy on smooth crabgrass pre-emerge. We saw that in the Guelph data, up to the 4-leaf stage, okay, and early post. So timing is important, right? Timing is important. Not atypical for these types of products. Even Dimension timing is important, right? I mean, even Dimension, you're looking at 2 apps, ideally, right, or a split application, ideally, because of the timing, because of the nature of crabgrass. Works fast. We saw that with my results out back here, and there is a rate response in a lot of cases, and that's also something that's not atypical. So the results from the data that we're seeing are comforting, are in an effort to move forward and something to hang our hat on with respect to efficacy. 2 applications are better than 1 all day. Absolutely. The interval depends on the weed pressure. I think most of those were 3 weeks. Some of them might be closer to 4. 3 to 4 weeks is probably something that is a good idea. With a product like a weed and feed, or this weed and feed, or any weed and feed for that matter, you're going to reduce labor costs because you're getting more bang for the buck on a pass. In this case, you're getting a fertility, you're getting weed control, both broadleaf and crabgrass. You're getting moss control for sure. And you're getting some disease prevention, right? That's mostly a plant health. That's mostly a plant health response in the disease prevention. Not going to get anything, in my opinion, you're not going to get anything. I can't think of the word. You're not going to get anything after it's already exists. I can't think of the word, but anyway, that's where we're coming on the disease side. Feedback on efficacy has been very good. I have not received 1 complaint on Fiesta granular. I have not. Now we've had 1 year in the books. We really launched it fall of 2023, but not very, very little went out. Obviously, it's not a huge a component of this particular program. Some went out, but not much. But even though 24, what was sold, what went out, what the feedback we've been getting, and we've been asking for it is positive. So here's a suggested use. This is kind of what we're hearing. This is kind of what I'm hearing. There's a couple ways to do it. We just met with a couple folks. We were out at the golf show last week. We talked to a bunch of folks that were using it, both in and testing it in Canada, not only in Canada, but also here. Round 1, when soil temps reach 50 to 55 degrees, 55 degrees, I should say. I'd like to say 55 degrees on that end. I think that's a better benchmark to hit. 55 degrees. Round 2, approximately 4 weeks later, and then 1 fall application. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of fall application. I hope you guys are all doing a fall application, a fall herbicide application. Whatever it is, it should be done. It's a good idea. So the only difference between that second program is really you can spot treat with, you can spot treat with the granular, but I think it's a lot easier, obviously, to spot treat with the liquid. So that's really the only difference with between those two programs is that the round 2 spot treat with Fiesta liquid as needed. I mean, who knows how I'm sure there's going to be properties where you need it. There's going to be properties where you don't. You know what I'm saying? So this is kind of almost a minimum. You can certainly do more. There's certainly an opportunity to do more. Absolutely. Whether, but this is, just when it comes to herbicides and fertility, I mean, depending on the property, you could get away with just this for your fertility, for your weed control applications, period. And moss. So there's some certainly a lot of benefits to doing a weed and feed. The data that we've seen too is like if a homeowner is going to do one thing, it's going to be a weed and feed. So that's kind of the experience that we've seen in the data that we've looked at that shows. Yeah. So benefits of a fall application in a program. Preaching to the choir here, I'm sure. Top killing weeds in the fall makes them more susceptible to winter kill. Okay, even if you don't kill them straight away in the fall, they're going to be more susceptible to winter kill or a spring application of herbicides because they're going to be weaker coming out of winter. Okay, Fiesta has good activity in cooler temps. Okay, we see as long as that weed is actively growing, you're going to get some absorption, you're going to get some efficacy. Okay. 55 degrees is probably in that category when weeds are, probably not doing too much below that temperature. Okay. And in the fall, there's a lot of flexibility in traditional overseeding programs, aeration overseeding programs, because it's not systemic. It doesn't hang around very long, right? Fiesta works pretty quickly. And as soon as it's done working, it's done working. So it doesn't, you can, with some timing, with some planning, it doesn't affect overseeding, typical fall overseeding or aeration programs for that matter. And in many areas, Fiesta is already part of an effective fall program. Okay, so this is a good slide here. Why use the granular over the liquid? Okay, first of all, it's ready to use, right? The liquid's a concentrate. Ready to use, you saw me, dump it in a spreader and do it. Even I can do it without additional equipment, right? And that's where the granular comes in. This opens up the Fiesta application to several more LCOs without the ability or interest in dragging a hose or using a backpack. All right, clearly. So it opens up that audience. It opens up that population of folks that could potentially use it more easily. So that leads to optics, right? Nobody tends to have an issue with the dry application relative to a liquid application, right? I know I'm, again, preaching to the choir here, but nobody's going to look twice if somebody's pushing a spreader. Even an old one like I was pushing, even a new one like that are out there, which I probably do need. But anyway, also, especially in relatively sensitive areas, when you're looking at HOAs, certain neighborhoods, commercial accounts, schools, parks, this is all a really kind of low-hanging fruit for Fiesta granular application. And I was interested to hear this. This is the higher end content. It's the feed part of the product. It could potentially take away a fertility application for you guys. So you're getting more bang for your buck with a single application. Right. So there really are, this is kind of really, in my opinion, kind of what fed the demand from what we were hearing from you all. Is like, Eric, let's get a granular. A granular would be great. Liquid's great, but granular would be nice too. We don't see it cannibalizing the liquid. We see it complementing the liquid for these reasons. Okay, so that's really the granular. I'd be remiss in the last 5 minutes or so I have to talk just a little bit, just a reminder that we obviously do have the liquid, been around a long time. Very, very similar benefits to the granular. This is kind of this is Dave Gardner data. This is back in 20. Oh, this is actually pretty much old. It might be 21. Anyway, but this is on these on the left, no application. On the right, 2 applications. You can see what happens. It turns the weeds black. It does turn the weeds black, and you do see the green up from the iron. This was just last year. This was University of Maryland Extension Farm out in Clarksville. There was 2 apps on this property. 2024. Looks really, really nice. We're going to be doing some more work out there this year. This is out that the new building that just opened. Oh, most of you wouldn't be aware of that, but anyway, they just opened up a new building out there. It's beautiful. And then, of course, final sand. Joe alluded to this a little bit. This is our standard. This is our go-to for non-selective herbicide. If you look at the demand again, back to the demand for whether in herbicides is the biggest piece of the pie for LCOs. So this is non-selective, bare ground, kills moss, kills anything green, right? It's not systemic, does not move through the plant. So you can control shoots from apple trees or flowering bushes, lilacs, etc. You can control the shoots without harming the plant. Controls moss and algae, fantastic. Anyway, it's a great product. I'm telling you, I do use this product. I have it in my garage. Fiesta works fast. Final Sand works faster. Mode of action, it's really a desiccant, removes the waxy cuticle of green vegetation only. Repeat applications may be required. Again, it's a contact herbicide. So there is the potential for regrowth, especially on grasses. So I'll leave that alone on that end. It is OMRI listed, not OMRI certified. Remember, now we all know that. It's OMRI listed. It doesn't stain, so you have no problem with hardscapes, crack and crevice applications. It's got a broad label. It's great value. This gives you a quick idea of some of the uses. You can use it on fences. You can use it on the sides of trees. And you can see on the lower left the bare ground application. So it's a very broad, again, a broad label, ubiquitous. I mean, I use it all the time. It's a great product. Fun to use, works fast. And look what this happens. We're testing a new organic product for grubs. Just to give you a quick idea, this is some trial work we did in a homeowner's lawn here in Central Maryland this year. We worked with the University of Maryland on that. And we're real excited about that as well. We're seeing good results. We're also working with Ben McGraw at Penn State, and we're also working with, his name escapes me, out in Purdue with this product. So we're really excited. So keep your eyes peeled. I'd be remiss if I didn't take advantage of this situation to let you guys know about that. So I appreciate you let me put that slide up there. Okay, there's my contact information. Leave a few minutes for questions. Thank you all very much for your attention. I do really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Eric. Excellent presentation. It's always a pleasure. We do have a few questions for you in the queue here. So maybe you can take a little time to answer some of them, maybe clarify or reiterate some points here. So we have a question from Mark. Does the negative percent control, and I'm not sure if you can speak to this, but does the negative percent control of Scott's Turf Builder suggest that it induces crabgrass?
I think, without looking further into the data, I think it didn't induce, but it didn't reduce it.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say. It didn't reduce. I can't say that it helped it.
Understood. Okay. Okay. Are there any other crabgrass species that we have here that this product does not control?
We've only done work on the smooth and large, so that's all I can speak to at this point. We did think at one point it had some efficacy on very immature stiltgrass, but I can't really say that with any confidence at this point, because we did do some trials on it this past 24.
Okay. Okay. Next question I have for you is, how many years of testing have been done to determine when you will start seeing phytotoxicity from iron accumulation, or is that even possible with this formulation?
Great question. We have done it. There's no accumulation in the soil of iron over time.
Okay, perfect.
How many years? I'd have to go back and look. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can certainly provide that to anybody that needs it.
Okay. So I guess this goes with, I suppose, managing expectations a bit, but someone asks, and I guess it's a subjective question, but my customers don't care whether crabgrass is smooth or large. If they see any crabgrass, I get a complaint. This is even after I explain the limitation. How would you respond to a customer in this situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's funny. I had a question like that yesterday, but believe it or not, from a customer in Hawaii. And because it grows year round there.
Mhm.
So really my answer to that to them was just consistent. You just got to be diligent. It might be a labor of love to control that crabgrass over time, but I mean, it's doable, but it's going to take time.
Absolutely. Okay, next question is, how does Fiesta granular or liquid affect pollinators?
It doesn't.
Doesn't. Okay. Um, okay, so will Fiesta have any control on Creeping Charlie or African Violet?
Yes.
Okay, and are there any Neudorf products that work effectively on box elder bugs?
No.
Okay, so those are